Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Raleigh Board of Selectmen meeting for September 30th, 2013. Remind everybody in the audience that this meeting is being audio taped and videotaped. And to call the meeting to order, first on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And our Treasurer Collector, Karen Summit, is in the audience tonight. So, Karen, could you lead us in the pledge?
I'd be happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Karen, thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, just remind everybody, this meeting is being audio taped and videotaped. From 7:05 until 7:15, we'll have Citizens Query. It is now about 7:02. I have chairman's comments tonight. I'll make those. And also, just to remind everybody, we have 4 appointments. We have a 7:15 appointment for Karen Summit. We have Ron Keefe coming in at 7:30, Highway Surveyor. At 7:45, we have Dan Sapansky on the Town Common Project. 8 o'clock, we have Tara Gibbs to discuss the annual Fall Fest event on the Common. So we have 4 appointments tonight. And so first, I would like to talk about, for chairman's comments, Saturday was the Brad Hills, our state rep. He has a annual food drive, and this is the second annual food drive. And he dropped off a whole truckload of food to the food pantry on Saturday morning. And I went over, Ellen Peabody and Bob was there, and there's a picture of Brad in the center with Ellen, who helps run the food pantry. And there's our vice chair right there, Bob Murray. You can see that. Okay. And then, anyways, you can see the truckload. There's a picture here of A.J. Paglia, our former chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Pastor Phil Cressy, and what's Carmine's last name? Who works over the light department? I can't think of Carmine's.
Water Department, Federico.
Oh, I need
Okay, Carmine. And there's AJ's son, and then Brad Hill is in the back of the vehicle. And I can't say enough for the donations. Can you get that picture?
I think they're trying to Bob right now.
See if you can get in there and up there at the top. Up a little bit. You see AJ Paglia. Okay, Pastor Cressy. AJ's son, who was out there, he was helping us, Caesar. And Brad up here in the back of the truck. Truck was completely full, and he dropped it all off at the food pantry. And then a little bit further, and you can see everybody here. Some pictures. And there was outside the food pantry in Raleigh here, right? Some pictures. And it was a great day. It was a lot of fun. Brad was located right in front of the market basket, and so many people came by. I went up to help Brad between 9 and noontime, and we actually got up there at 10 o'clock, 10 till about 11:15. He had filled the truck by that time, and I understand he doubled the amount of food. It was a great day. I got to thank Representative Hill. He did just a tremendous job, and all the people of Raleigh, they're really the heroes here, because in the surrounding towns, Ipswich and Georgetown, so many people came by and stopped with bags of food. It was very touching. Just a wonderful outpouring of sentiment from the community, helping out in a very worthy cause. And I just can't say enough about all the people that stopped by. And one of my neighbors stopped by with 3 bags of food and dropped them off. And there were so many moments like that, and I can't say enough. And all those who donated, who are listening tonight, I want to thank you so much. That food is going to go out into the community and going to be a great service. I'd like to send these pictures along, depending on how the board feels. to Michelle Marshall and, to the newspaper. How does the board feel about that?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd
And
be a
just
great
a,
idea.
just a
Get a little advertisement.
little advertisement for the food pantry and for all the good they do within the community. And I want to especially thank Ellen Peabody and her sister, all the good works that they
Anna.
do. Anna Todd. So, again, thank you, for the Raleigh Food Pantry and all the people who made the contributions on Saturday. So, send those along. We have a vote to,
I'll make a motion that we send all the people that helped and donated the food and whatever to the food pantry.
and then we'll send this along to Michelle.
Michelle
Thank you.
Marshall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Here we go.
I'll take it, thanks. I have it.
So, it is 7:05. It is now citizens' query until 7:15. Any queries from anybody in the audience tonight? Nothing. Okay, so, again, we have 4 appointments starting at 7:15. And so, gentlemen, why don't we move on to general business? Okay, first on general business, request to use the town common by the Cub Scouts. Cub Scouts has sent the following request to use the town common for their annual fundraiser kickoff. And this is, hi Doreen, I am writing to request the use of the town common October 6th from 1 to 4 p.m. for the Cub Scouts annual fundraiser kickoff. Also, we would like to hang our popcorn fundraiser sign on the backstop on the common for the month of October. I take responsibility for attaching and removing the sign and can be contacted if the sign needs maintenance. Thank you, Megan Merrill, Raleigh Cub Scouts, Pack 15, which leaves a telephone number here. So with that,
I'd like to make a motion, request use the town common by the Cub Scouts for the month of October.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, any questions on that discussion, gentlemen? Okay, moving on. General business number 2, request from Agricultural Commission to extend the farmer's market by 1 week. To the board. Excuse.
I'll second it.
A second, all those in favor?
Aye.
That was quick. Okay, email from Rachel Murin, Myopia Hunt Club Walk. Hi, Heather, we were looking for, to host the Myopia Hunt Club again this fall. They will be enjoying our beautiful countryside on Thursday, October 24th at 10 a.m. and Thursday, November 7th at 1 p.m. They will be leaving from our home on Kittery Avenue and welcomed by private landowners in Seaview Retreat. We ask you to notify the Honorable Selectmen of our event. Please do not hesitate to contact me if there are any questions. So this ride will be completely on private land.
I'll make the motion that we grant that
Well,
request.
I don't, do we need a motion?
They'll probably cross some streets, so.
They may, yeah,
We should
cross some
have a
street.
motion.
Good idea, Jack.
Yeah.
So I have a motion,
Second.
I have a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
We've never had any problems with this
No.
in the past.
No.
Had it for many years.
Yeah, normally they use the Bradstreet.
Used
They
to,
have in the past.
yeah.
Must be consolidating up on the Conley property.
I think I've only seen them once, they're pretty well hidden.
Yeah, I think they go through and they're done. It's quick if you're not right there.
Okay, number 4, general business, lift hiring freeze for Finance Committee Secretary position. The FinCom Chairman Larry White asked the Board of Selectmen to lift the hiring freeze so Debbie can post the position. I have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to general business number 5. Letter from Chief Barker requesting Elizabeth Ann Smith to be appointed reserve dispatcher. Despite the recent appointments of a reserve dispatcher, the communication center is still experiencing staffing difficulties. I am requesting that you appoint Elizabeth Ann Smith of Lynn as reserve dispatch and matron effective October 1st, 2013 to expire June 30th, 2014. Ms. Smith was the second place candidate in the previous selection process and is an excellent candidate. She currently works for the Lynn Fire Department as a call taker for both fire and EMS calls, and is a paramedic for Cataldo Ambulance. She is fully trained in state-required curriculum and would only require orientation training to the operations of Raleigh's Communication Center. As a reserve dispatcher, she would only fill in for shifts left vacant by sick, vacation, and holidays, so there would be no cost to the town beyond her orientation training. Since many shifts are currently being filled at overtime rates, she would work at a straight time rates. We would recoup the cost for her training very quickly. A background investigation was performed by Detective Lieutenant Gamache, and Ms. Smith is satisfactory results. Sincerely, Chief Robert Barker.
Thank you for the motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on, a letter from Katrina O'Leary, resignation from her position. Honorable members of the board, it is with sadness that I officially tender my resignation with my job as town planner for the town of Raleigh. My last day of working Raleigh Planning Board will be Thursday, October 17th. I am hoping to take the following week as a paid vacation week. Working for the town of Raleigh has been a wonderful experience and has taught me many valuable lessons. I feel that I have grown in many ways here and will always treasure the opportunities provided for me by Raleigh. This town has a unique charm that makes it stand out from other communities, and I am proud to call it home. I have accepted a newly created position of planning coordinator with the town of Middleton and will begin my job there October 21st, 2013. While I will miss working with the town that I call home, I feel it is time for a new challenge and experience. If there is anything I can do to be assistance during the transition, please let me know. This letter shall also serve as a notice that I am resigning from the Zoning Review Committee effective October 17th. Please let me know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Katrina O'Leary, Town Planner. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion that we accept the letter of resignation of Katrina O'Leary, and also to send her a letter of
Yes.
thanking us
Good idea.
for the work performed. She was a great asset, I think,
Yep.
working with everyone.
I'll second that motion with regrets.
That's
Right.
excellent. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick statement that she came to work for us as, originally, I believe it was as the building inspector's secretary.
Yes,
That's correct.
And she did a great job of bringing that office
she did.
up to date and in conformance with the standards that we were looking for. And she then moved on to the planning board, in which she once again did an excellent job of bringing that position that she filled, expertise and knowledge that we were sorely lacking, and hopefully we can find a replacement for her that's comparable.
And I again added with regrets. She did a great job
Yeah.
over in the planning position and other positions that she has filled in the town. So with deep regrets, we take her with resignation. All those in favor?
Aye.
We wish Katrina all the best on her new position in the town of Middleton. Okay. General business number 7, lift hiring freeze for the planner position. Lifting the freeze for the planner position. Planning Board Chairman Kurt Bryant asked the Board of Selectmen to lift the hiring freeze so Debbie can post the position. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a
Second.
second? I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it is now, we have finished all general business. We'll put that on hold and we moved into our appointment folder. And first appointment Again, as I mentioned before, is our treasurer collector, Karen Summit. And attached is a memo from the Personnel Board regarding the State Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission's recent audit in the resulting requirement that the town transition all employees who are currently contributing Social Security to Oprah. And I will let you explain Oprah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oprah, that's a TV program, this is Oprah. Okay. Also attached is a memo from Treasurer Collector Karen Summit regarding transition to Oprah, and a letter to Deborah Egan from the Essex Regional Retirement Board. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Karen, and you can explain this to us.
All right, so just a little bit of background. Employees that work 20 hours or more are considered full-time with Essex Regional Retirement, and they contribute to the pension system. OBRA affects people who are seasonal, part-time, temporary employees, and basically what it is it stands for the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act. It was put in place so people that worked part-time had some kind of retirement pool to contribute to. In the town of Rowley, we have had part-time employees. We had given them the choice whether to contribute to Social Security or to OBRA. And during PERAC's audit of the Essex Regional Retirement Board, they said, no, that's a no-no, you can't do that. Municipal employees are not eligible to contribute to Social Security unless they have something called a Section 218 agreement, which the town of Rowley does not. So I met with the Personnel Board last week, and we decided that we could make this transition, over the next month or so. And I'm going to be sending out an email, which is very similar to the one in your packet, to the affected employees that says, we're doing this because we've been told to do it by PERAC and the Essex Regional Retirement Board. It's a deferred compensation plan, so the money that you contribute is pre-tax. And what happens is our vendor that we use is Nationwide. We establish an account for each person at Nationwide. Their funds that we withhold are deposited in that account, and it's invested in an income-producing manner. There's no choice of how it's invested. It's invested in the OBRA plan, but that's basically what the investment objective is. That. So when people leave the town, they can have access to their funds. If they happen to pass away, the funds are distributed. And basically, I'll be sending out, I think I have 32 people who are going to be affected by this. I'm going to be sending out a memo basically that says we need to make this change because we have to. I'm going to hold an information session upstairs in the auditorium for anybody who has questions. I'll do that on Monday, October 7th, which is next Monday at 5 o'clock. If there's anybody who can't make that, who has questions, they can certainly call me. There'll be an information sheet on what OBRA is, and then the enrollment form.
Okay.
So basically, there's not a whole lot to do. You need to fill out this little form and give it back to me. And basically, it's got your name, address, and your beneficiary. So that's something that the selectmen need to put their stamp on. But basically, we've been told to do it.
It's something that the selectmen have to do too, because of this stipend.
That's right. The only people who do not have to participate are people who are retired from Essex Regional Retirement Board. If you
Okay.
are a retiree, you don't need to contribute. Right. You and Jack.
Karen, what's the total number of like part-time employees that we have paying into either OBRA or Social Security at this point?
Uh,
Approximately.
I would think it's probably about 50 or 60, you know, given that we have call firemen, a lot of the people that work at the library. You know, it tends to vary.
Right.
Reserve patrolman.
Right,
it's-
right. So I took a look at the people, at a list of the people that were contributing to Social Security, and, you know, I think it was about 30, 35.
Okay.
Um,
So somewhere 45, 50%
Right,
breakdown of one to the other, so that
right.
it's sizable, but it's not the whole group.
Right, exactly, exactly. And like I said, you know, it involves basically, you know, filling out this card, come to the information session, and, you know, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Your money, you know, basically is going into a segregated account. And when you leave the town of Raleigh, it's yours to, you know, to do with what you wish. You know, it's taken out on a pre-tax basis, so depending on, you know, when you try to take it out, there may be tax consequences. But it's 7.5%, and that's about it. Do any of you have any questions?
Just one that has come up in previous employment. We will still get that summary of the individual deduction made from the check and the total for.
Right, right. So instead of seeing Social Security, you'll see OBRA. I think it's deduction 81. You know, it'll have a number, and that'll be it.
The reason why I ask is that I was a teacher way back, and we actually went to court to force the state to give us the summary of what we had in our retirement system, and the court agreed with us, and the state never did.
Right. Well, and another reason that it's important to make sure you fill this out is Nationwide will send you a summary every year
Okay.
of, you know, what you've got, and, you know,
But I'm currently in the program, and since I've been a selectman going way back. And, yeah, they send you a yearly summary. They're very available for information calls, et cetera. And I've never, once I started putting in, I had lapses in my town time. I never took it out, I just left it there. And at the end, ultimately, you can either take it out, or you can roll it over to an IRA, you can, you know, what was the
Right.
options so that you can kind of hopefully add to your retirement.
It's
fund.
pre-tax.
Right.
right. And it's a pretty simple procedure when you want to take the money out. You just
Just a phone
contact
call,
them,
just a phone call.
and basically
And they'll
what
send you a form.
they send a form, and then you bring it in to me, and I just verify the date of separation. So, you know, it shouldn't be too painful.
Monday at
At 5, right.
Next Monday at 5.
At 5, I'll be upstairs.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but, you know,
Yeah,
you
we
can
had
feel
a-
free to come on in anytime.
We had a discussion of this at the last personnel board meeting last week, and, you know, we had a discussion a few weeks back in which there was some concern whether we would keep the option going or not, but the retirement board came down and very definitely said absolutely not, there is no option, you have to get into this, so. We had the discussion and we came up with a November 1st
Right,
date
right.
to make the transition so that there's enough time to give people a chance to be notified, no part-time employees, to catch up with them if they don't work every day, and then at the same time, fill out the forms, and Karen has time to do the paperwork and move forward, so.
Right.
November
Once you-
1st seemed like a convenient time for everybody.
Once you vote on this tonight, I'll send this memo out to everybody affected tomorrow
Okay.
with the forms, so.
I'll make the motion, there's no more discussion. to,
Any more discussion? None?
Make the transition as of November 1st to OBRA and eliminate the option of Social Security,
I have a mo-
part-time employees.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Caroline, thank you for coming in tonight.
All right,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. Thank you
Anything else
for,
for us?
no, that's it.
Okay.
Maybe next week.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. All right. It is 7:25. At 7:30, Ron Keith is here now. He's moved up to the he can't wait to speak, so he's moved right up to the front of the room, so. Ron, you have to wait another 5 minutes, so we're gonna conduct a little bit more town business. So we're gonna go into, let's see, where are we? We are in old business. And old business number 1, Girl Scout property update. Selectman Peterson attended the Community Preservation Committee meeting last Thursday and presented the Selectmen's request for $10,000 to be used for purchasing and planning costs for Girl Scout property. The Community Preservation, otherwise known as CPC, has approved this request. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave, and Dave, give us an update.
Yeah, I appeared before, and Joe was on that committee. He's our representative to the CPC committee. I made a brief presentation the other night. Now, that was a couple of weeks back. We'd gone out with the Girl Scout people and looked at the property, and the board made a preliminary determination that we were very much interested in. And the purpose of the $10,000 is to allow us seed money to, if we have to perform surveys, soil testing, any legal costs that come up in looking at the property. So we haven't, this is not to definitely buy the property, but it's to give us seed money to take a look at it. And the CPC was unanimous and very approving. I think everybody had positive things. I think the general consensus is that this is a piece of property that we really want to seriously look at and hopefully enter into some kind of agreement, whether we do the whole thing ourselves or in conjunction with some other people to purchase the property. So that will appear on town meeting, at the special town meeting. And I think the other thing what we were looking to do in addition is start to inform the townspeople, give them a chance to see at the town meeting. We hope to make some kind of a brief presentation as to what the property looks like, and just make it be informational in terms of getting them to approve the town meeting to approve the $10,000, so that as we go along, if people have objections or problems or issues or suggestions of what we should do, we certainly want to look at that from then on. And my other question, I guess, is from this board is, where do we want to go from here? In other words, I know they talked about Georgetown buying a camp over there, Camp Dennison, a few years ago. Similar type situation. Does the chair wish, or does the board wish to begin kind of just doing a little bit of background work on maybe I was thinking specifically of maybe hooking up with Brent from the Conservation Commission and going over and talking to Georgetown and coming up with some information as to how they did it and any problems they might have had or issues and how it's working out, so that they would give us a little bit of as well as there may be other things we should need to be doing too, but that would at least, without committing to anything, begin to give us some information. So,
Deb, do you have any ideas of going forward with this?
Well, as Selectman Peterson said, the example that David Santamena had provided us was the Georgetown purchase. They purchased it, and Selectman Murray was there as well. And I had a conversation with Mr. Santamena today, and we talked about the Georgetown situation and that how they pursued it and worked on it to get the people to approve it, I guess, at their town meeting a couple of years ago, as I understand. So I think it would be beneficial for us to, speak to the officials in Georgetown. And I know Brent has a relationship with the Georgetown conservation agent, and he knows that person and could probably call them and coordinate some meeting so we could discuss it. Also, we need to focus on, the open space piece, is pretty much fine. It's just the active recreation portion that would be a camp, and looking at that and seeing if there's potential to use that, then we need to just do some, I think, very general testing on soils for septics and things like that, because there are several buildings out there. I'm not sure what the status is on that, but getting records from the health department as well.
So have Brent as our lead person to talk to?
Well, he has some
Georgetown.
contacts over there, and a good portion of their camp, I guess, was also put into conservation use. So it's just a matter of, it's an easy contact, and Brent's around to take it off the, our office staff is really busy with special town meetings, so if Brent could grab that, I think Bob or I would be more than willing to or anybody else, but I'd be willing to partake if they have a meeting, just to
Have a motion to
get
make,
involved. The other thing I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, is maybe a letter to the YMCA in Ipswich. And they mentioned it there, I don't remember what the name of the outfit was in Newbury or Plum Island. There's like a, I don't want to say a roughhouse camp, but it's a
Ocean
it's more of
Adventure or something like that.
adventure type camp that might have an interest. And then there was, we had we met before at the time with Erica
Keefe.
who's, and in fact, she's got a letter in tonight's Newburyport News, similar to what she told us, so give her, that's at least 3 parties. There may be others, but maybe just to get the information out, so if this, because I think we'd really be looking at hopefully trying to work with one or more. There might be a situation of more than one group that.
I mean, it's a huge piece of property.
Yeah, and to run a camp, the Y may want to do it. It may, the Erica Keith's group may want to work partly with that. There's a lot of options here, and I think the sooner we start generating some interest in this, we can.
I think
Because we want to be in a position by, I'm sure, May town meeting to decide whether this is something that we really want to do.
I think we need to quickly pursue this. So, I have a motion to have Brent the appoint manager.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that will be for Brent to make contact with,
At the same time,
Georgetown, yes. At the same
Georgetown.
time, though,
at the same time, can we send a couple, I don't think we need a motion necessarily, but just,
yeah, I'll just have a motion to.
okay, I'll make a motion to notify the 3 parties I mentioned, or anybody else that might see the publicity. And
Okay.
we're looking for all encompassing, we just don't know who might be interested in this, other than those 2 parties that expressed some interest. The one at Plum Island, well, was just given to us, so I don't know if they'd actually be interested or not.
Okay,
I'll second that.
I have a
motion,
second.
Dave.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave, for the update. That was good. All right, moving on. It is a little past 7:30. We move that to the other folder. Ron Keith's here. Okay, we have 7:30 appointment to Highway Surveyor Ron Keith to discuss revised snow plowing contract. Ron and Debbie worked on revising the snow plowing contract for 2013-2014 season by the following document issued by the other towns in the area to update the insurance requirements and add additional legal wording. And we discussed this last week at last week's meeting. And with that, Ron, I will turn it over to you.
We added the workers' comp, as you guys requested or brought up. We upped the insurance Tuesday morning after last Monday night's meeting. I was on the phone at 6:30 in the morning with surrounded towns. It's usually the only time I get a hold of anyone. And we went over it. There is 1 or 2 towns that still have what we have, but Newburyport being one of the most recent up theirs to the 500 to $1 million. And that was working with Meyer and their audit department. So Debbie Egan was nice enough to type up the draft. My only concern is some of the insurance liability. I was able to reach out to the largest contractor we have in town and briefly mention to him, what would it take to up your insurance? This individual has the highest insurance in town. He says, Ron, if those numbers are right, I'm out. That's 5 pieces of equipment off the road, and he's the largest. First he said, give me a little bit of time to make a phone call to my insurance company. He was able to. His insurance will go up 7 to 8%. He's paying $7,000 a year now.
Oh.
On his best year was $35,000. That was 2010. He says, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And that's the largest contractor that we hire. So if the largest contractor is saying, I can't do it, Ipswich ran into a problem. They started with their numbers. They actually didn't have anyone for the first year. I was able to talk to them.
Ron, which, well, we didn't discuss this today.
No, this is
We
just
talked
a
about
draft.
the 1 million.
500 to 1 million.
Yeah,
I
we
think
didn't-
that the biggest problem is coming into the automobile insurance. Property damage is 500,000. Bodily injuries $1 million.
Because we had discussed the $2 million cap, which
There
is
there is-
desirable, but we never thought
Yeah.
there was an issue with the 1 million.
No, I got, this is actually, the plan I'm having in my hand is from the contractor, and he has the highest in town. Each occurrence $1 million, that's for general liability. Damage to rented properties, $100,000. Personal injury, $1 million. General, aggregate, $1 million. The bodily injury, $50,000. Bodily injury, $100,000. Property damage, $100,000. So property damage liability, we're jumping up $500,000, which I don't understand, because the only thing we ever hit is maybe a mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you drive through a house, it ain't gonna be $500,000 in damage. But we are going by what Maya recommended to Newburyport. The professional liability insurance, I don't know what that is. And I couldn't find it on anyone's plan, because I do have copies. I had to go to the shop because my printer failed, so I had to go to the shop to print this off. Yeah, I think I just want to take a double look at the insurance, because if I have one contractor and I read the numbers, and I'm going by what we have as the highest, if he's saying that he's out, we're in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
Like I said, if the biggest contract is out, I can assure you the guys with 1 or 2 trucks are out of the picture. And I can't plow the town with 3 guys. Never mind if one gets hurt. I actually have more equipment than I do men, so.
In the surrounding towns, Newbury, did you talk to?
Newbury doesn't have a contract.
So, Mr. Chairman, what I would recommend is let me work with Ron on these, and I will actually contact my, run
Okay.
these by them, explain our situation, and see if they have some reduced coverages that are aligned with the region here.
Okay.
And we can come back to it. We also kind of modeled it so that it's more as like a formal
Right.
legal contract, so I
We did notice in the
Researching
old
that,
one, we had 2 pages.
wanted to organize the information, and write it in more as a legal contract between the town and an individual contractor,
Mhm.
and cover some of the other areas that I felt we needed to, such as a total indemnification to the town. We have these in all our construction contracts, indemnification of the town. So I think we would want to also
Okay.
I
include
agree,
that
I
in
mean,
in
the
this
contract's been
contract.
kind of, we really haven't had an incident.
Mm-hmm.
Is an incident gonna happen? Yeah, we have the building.
Yes, that's right, yeah. I remember that phone call I received. Why don't we table this for another week, Debbie Explorer,
Yep.
the insurance?
I'd like to thank Deb too, she was able to do this
Sure.
real quickly, so.
Well, thank you, and we'll come back to this next week, same time. Okay. All right, Ron, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. It is 7:40, and we have a 7:45 appointment. Another 5 minutes, so we'll go back to old business and get the other folder out. See if I can find where I left off. There we go. Okay. Okay, old business number 2, update on the intersection of Route 1 in Central and Glen Street. Debbie, Amy, and myself, Chief Barker, Highway Surveyor Ron Keefe, Foreman Pat Snow, no relation, attended a meeting called by Representative Brad Hill at the intersection of Route 1 and Central in Glen Street. This past Wednesday, Representative Hill brought Massachusetts Department of Transportation District 4 Director Paul Stedman to this meeting. We were told that the sight lines at the intersection do not rise to federal regulations, and therefore Mass DOT may not be able to fund a traffic light. However, Mr. Stedman advised us to make the request to Mass DOT for a road safety audit. There will be no cost to the town for this audit. The road safety audit will identify safety measures on the short-term, mid-term, and long-term basis. There may be other traffic calming measures that we may be able to implement based on the recommendations of the road safety audit. Board of Selectmen needs to vote to authorize Debbie to send a letter to Mr. Stedman requesting the roads safety audit. Any discussion from the board?
I think we definitely need to do that.
Yes. I have to say that Paul Stedman was great, wasn't he? He was, I mean, he knew his stuff.
He's new to the
Yes, he
District
is,
4?
to
Okay.
District 4, and he was out there and he was a world of information. And again, I've worked with Mass Highway in my other life before this, and I was very impressed with Mr. Stedman and how much information he brought to the table. I was very pleased. So,
I'll make a motion
okay.
that we authorize Debbie to send a letter to Mr. Stedman requesting the road safety audit.
I have a
Second.
motion. I have a second. Any other discussion from the board? Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
This is the first step, I think, and I was very pleased with Mr. Stedman and his approach out there at the intersection. And I have to thank, again, Representative Hill for his time out there before his legislative session early in the morning. Okay, we have another 3 minutes before our appointment, so go to old business number 3, and that is discuss town meeting articles. ASME, Local 2905, has signed the MOA with the town. Debbie has notified the applicable departments heads to inform them that she will need to put an article on November 4th, 2013 special town meeting warrant transferring funds to cover the agreement. Warrant closed today, so we will be working on the warrant over the next few days. Do we need a motion on this, Deb?
No, just so the board's aware, I don't know if there's any other ideas, but this is one that we will definitely have on the warrant because the union just signed off on that last week. Steve Lyons, the business agent, came by, so it's awesome.
Any discussion from the board?
I have one question.
Yes.
The police chief submitted a request to put an article
Yes.
for that traffic counting machine. I have some second guessing on the purchase of that machine, but we need to, if we're gonna do it, we need to identify where the funds are gonna come from, number one. And number two, I'm not sure how much value it's really gonna be. From his letter, what it does is it sets up in particular streets in particular areas of town and counts the traffic and the speed that the cars go through. And once you start this, he's gonna be running that piece of equipment all over town. And I think everybody's, the measurements he takes from my experience, and I'm sure from the experience of most people on this board, as well as the police experience, that the heaviest traffic on all these local streets comes at 7 to 9 in the morning, probably 4 to 6 or whatever the commuting hours are. And that's probably when the greatest abuse of speed is. At the same time, we have limited amounts of patrol activity, and people are gonna have this monitoring device put out there, and then they're gonna expect a week later to see a cruiser out there during the hours when there's speeding going on, and it's gonna be physically impossible as well as, the numbers of, I mean, I'd have them come out to my house and put it in front of my house, Newbury Road, the traffic comes flying down through. I swear some of those cars are going 50 miles an hour, but I'm sure that every street, Railroad Avenue, Warehouse, Newbury, Dodge, Daniels, I mean, we get all kinds of requests for speeders to be monitored. And granted, that machine will give us all kinds of data. I'm just not sure that it's going to give us the ability to, I mean, it's not going to increase cruiser coverage. It's not going to spread the cruisers out any more than what it is. other than we're gonna have people hollering at the police department that they, because of that data, they need to get a cruiser over there from 7 to 9 every night, or whatever so it's just something that, and like I say, the other issue is, you know, I think if we're gonna spend $4,000 on police equipment, at the last budget meeting we had, you gentlemen at the time had with the chief, he talked about, you know, training needs, ammunition needs, you know, there's all kinds of public safety functions the police department has where they could really make use of any additional money, and I'm just weighing what, I mean, it'll give us lots of data, there's no doubt about that, but I'm just not sure that the data is gonna be useful in terms of hiring more policemen to, I guess, monitor speed, so.
I see a point, Dave. The only thing I look at differently in favor of the machine is that, you know, if somebody calls up and said, you know, we have a speeding problem at a certain location, we have to send a car out there and send an officer for, you know, for visibility to slow the people down. This way we can put a set of device up out there, monitor the road, monitor the speed, and we don't have an officer there, but we get some data. We know, you know, and it's more, you know, so people know that the police department is observing that locale. So I just see it as a way of, you know, not having to dispatch an officer out there. We put the device around town. I mean, how many places, you know, could we put this?
Well, I'm sure you're
I
gonna
mean,
find
how many
plenty.
places?
There got to be
Yeah.
several places.
I mean,
I've seen.
yeah.
But I think it's targeting so that the police can target a time slot. When it's more likely, instead of just having, you know, if I call in and say there's somebody speeding on Bennett Hill, by the time they come up, there's nobody on Bennett Hill for a couple of hours.
Yeah, my point is, I guess, is just that we know the majority of the speeding is gonna be during the commuting hours. And once in a while, you're gonna get all times of the day, you may get a car speeding here or there, but there's no way you can target that particular time. It's a hit or miss deal, and it's just, you know, I'm not opposed to getting the data. You know, is it a situation we could maybe rent a machine for a year and see? I mean, to spend $4,000 on a traffic monitor device, and once we get all this, the buckets of data, I'm not sure what the police department can do with that, other than, you know, they're gonna tell the guy, oh, you park down on Dodge Road from 5 to 5:30. Well, if he gets a call or he gets something else going, he's not gonna be there. And then,
Well, it might be. I'm just looking at the long term. You know, if you collect all this data, and then you look down the road, at least the officers know that, you know, they can look at these different areas and they know this is where, you know, the car should be at this particular time in town. They can't be everywhere.
yeah, but I'd rather have it on Newbury Road than Daniels Road or Dodge Road or Warehouse Lane. And this is what I'm telling you, this is what you're gonna run into, is every resident that calls, and we get a fair number, I'm sure, during the year, of people complaining about speed.
Right. But this would be a way to have that data.
Well,
and be able to-
it confirms that there's
and
speeding
confirm
going on.
There is speeding going on.
But I mean, and my next thing is, all right, fine, we know there's speeding. How are we gonna?
Well,
How are we gonna put a cruiser in
we can
15 different locations
prioritize-
at the same time?
Right.
We can
So-
prioritize what parts of town need to be observed. That's the only way.
Okay, I'm just making, you know, let the townspeople
it's
vote on
legitimate.
it. I'm not saying don't put it in the warrant, but it's just one of those things that I think the chief would be wise in giving us a little explanation, as far as how he sees it, beyond just the fact that he gets the calls and he's looking to do something to give people some.
No, Dave, I
some data.
respect your opinion because you're a police officer. You dealt
But I
with
think-
traffic all the time, and Bob, you police work.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the thought comes to me that maybe we could look into other departments that have used this machine in the past and find out what their experience is with it, whether it actually deters some speeding because people don't really know what it's doing, whether it's taking the picture or getting a copy of the license number or registration number or whatever, and see if they've had that problem where what Dave has stated, that because it's there and other people want the cruiser there to take care of the situation.
See, Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is something that the motorist knows is there, or is this something that just it's unobtrusively hanging off the pole, so that if it's strictly for monitoring devices, it probably just monitors. They're not looking, like you see some of them. Well, we see the ones on Route 1 now that tell you how fast you go. Which I think if we're going to spend $4,000, I think the people that I know when I come up on one of those, if I'm doing a little bit over the speed limit right away, I say, oh, speed limit's 30 here and I'm doing 35. Like, all right, and you kind of take your foot off the gas and slow down.
Okay.
But to me, that kind of thing is more valuable than just getting up reams of data.
Yeah,
And I know they use the trailer, and there was some limitations to that, and that's quite a bulky device, but I've seen.
And I think that's who he was going to try to replace, was the trailer.
He's using the trailer now, and he had it fixed, and it's being used on
Dodge
Road currently.
That's run on solar power, basically.
Right.
Charges the
Yeah.
batteries, and he has trouble with the batteries, but, yeah, when he made the presentation, I was under the impression it would be a device something like that. Just a little bit more sophisticated, but maybe we should look into that first, so that we can.
I mean, I don't mind I'm not objecting to putting on town meeting floor that the townspeople vote on it, but I'm just voicing from our perspective is, if we're trying to solve a problem here, I'm not sure that merely getting reams of data is going to put us in a position to solve anything.
Well, I certainly agree with you, we need to solve the problem, and I certainly don't want to create a problem solving it. So if we could get some more data on it, some more information, maybe from the manufacturer, if Bob knows, the chief knows somebody that is actually using one of these machines, and get their experience with it as to what it does and doesn't do, and if it creates more problems than it's worth, that would be good information to have.
Do you want to bring the chief in next week?
Well, it might be just a matter of.
I don't think
I don't think we need him in here. I
Maybe-
mean, I'd be more than happy to
Debbie could
go over and
call and
talk to
ask
him.
them for some more information on it.
It will, and also the funding end of it as well. That was something I was gonna be working on this week.
We got to steal money from somewhere to buy
Right.
this, so
It's gonna be transfers. I mean, this is not,
Right.
so if,
and he's got nowhere in his budget, I'm sure, that he wants to take this from. So,
Okay.
Right.
I mean, I'd be more than happy to go over and talk to him the next few days and see what alternatives he might have, and then I'll just make a quick present. And I'll try to be neutral, but no, I mean, in all honesty, it's just are there other alternatives that we could be looking at that.
Dave, when you go over, we'll have to send Dave over to go see the chief, come back and report to us next week.
Yeah, and if the chief wants to come in, I mean, he's more than welcome to, but not, instead of just having him come down here and for 5 minutes, it would be.
Do we need a vote to send Dave over?
no, so
No.
if we just delegate Dave to go down, to speak to the chief,
I'll just
go
go.
over the details of this, and report back next week. I'll have a draft warrant
Sure.
that the board will be reviewing, so at that point, it's under the purview of the board to remove any articles that,
Dave, you delegated.
Okay, plus he gave us an invoice, it didn't really give much information as to the equipment itself, and, is it a sign that goes up, is it just something that's undetected by the motorist, or is it, I've seen some of the small ones that are like the big ones on Route 1, that hang off, as Georgetown had them for a while there, I don't know if they were trying them out or using them. It showed you the speed you were going, and it was there for about a week, and then it disappeared, and I've never seen it anywhere over there again, so this might be the type of device it is, I don't know.
I think it was in Danvers I saw it. Actually, it's a lot like the one that we have now. It gives you the speed that you're traveling, and if you're over the speed, it will flash.
Right.
This one had a little unique situation in it. It did that. It was yellow speed. If you were over, it flashed in red. Then there was almost like a strobe light.
Yes. This is the one, that's similar to the one I saw in and the whole thing's is about this big, and you can hang it on bolt it to a traffic post or a telephone pole, rather than having the whole trail. Now, I don't know how it works with batteries.
Now, the one with the
I'm
strobe light, I've heard a couple of people, they thought their picture was being taken. And
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're getting a
Is in
picture of the
fact-
plate
Is in
and
fact taking a
information.
picture. Now, to me, that would be a really good.
This is why I'm interested,
right.
Bob, in saying, is it something that would be more effective that we could put up?
Yeah.
Because I think it's valuable for people to know if they're coming down at street XYZ, that the speed limit's 30. A lot of people don't realize that the speed posted, they don't see the signs. I mean, the sign says 25. Do they ever see it? No. If you ask if you stop someone and say, oh, what's the speed limit here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you said-
Whereas that device, it at least lets you know what the speed is.
Right.
And if you're going to violate, you're going to violate. I mean, we're not naive here that,
Yeah.
I mean, if someone's late for work, they're gonna, they're gonna go as fast as they can. But at least it is, you know, and the neighbors can clearly see, because, I mean, I go out on, a good example is Dodge Road, where we're getting a lot of complaints. Well, I'm out there every day with the school bus, and I'm there with my own truck all the time. I use that as a cut through. And I'm doing 25 to 30, which is the speed limit. And I've had people yell at me that I'm speeding. Well, you know, I'm not. but I mean, it's a perception when you're standing in your yard and watching the traffic go by. There's a perception that you're speeding, and you know. So
The only speeding I witness is on Railroad Avenue, about 15 minutes to 6.
yeah, before the train
And
comes.
they're trying to get to the train before it leaves the station.
Yeah, no, definitely, no, you're absolutely right. All right, I don't want to delay this any longer.
I-
Trying to get the 550, right?
One point, though, I would like to make is that I'm glad that they finally corrected the one on Route 1, that you can clearly see the
Yes.
posted speed is 50, and then it was flashing red that you're doing 35, as you were exceeding the speed limit. I mean, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
How can 15 miles under the speed
Well, I
limit?
mean, sometimes I'm sure they're faulty. They have to be. The maintenance becomes an issue with these.
Wasn't
kind
that
of
one
things, too.
flashing with the strobe light at one time? Thought they changed it. Good.
No, those are pretty good on Route 1. I mean,
Yeah,
they
but
might have
I
been
thought when
faulty
they
at
first
one
put it
time.
in, they did a strobe light.
Yeah, they might have had some
And
issues.
now they
with it.
changed it back, and just, I think they got a lot of complaints about the strobe lights. People afraid to have any picture taken. So Dave, if
And
you
I'll
could-
ask the chief where in his budget he'd like to get the money.
you'll make us day.
He's probably thinking of it already. Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Well,
well, let's go to the appointment folder. Okay, 7:45, Dan Spanky. Dan, we reserved that seat for you. I'm glad you moved up front.
Thank you.
Okay. And with that, Dan is here to discuss the following. Pre-existing tree removal and purchase of 2 additional trees, expanding the town common restoration project to include lighting fixtures, sidewalks, etc. Warrant Article 8, special town meeting for April 30th, 2012, and the project budget. So with that, Dan, I'm going to turn it all over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item is, originally, the committee had intended to leave the 2 larger trees that are currently standing in front of the funeral home. One is a little leaf linden and the other is a London plane tree. And the reason that they were originally left in the plan is because, number one, they're of the 2 species, or one of the two of the many species that we're planting on the common. But also they were in very good shape, and we thought that they deserved to stay where they are, even though considering that they are outside of the current new planting location and scheme. As it turns out, I think as the board knows, the light department has offered to take that electric line that currently is above ground on Independence Street and bury that line just in front of or between the new planting of the trees and the curb of the street. And as part of that offer, they had also agreed at their expense to install 5 new street lamps. So once the initial planting of the trees was completed, we got down and we were meeting about the trenching and how that electric line would be buried. And we've come to find out that the roots of those 2 trees will be so dramatically impacted by the excavation of the trench, the 2-foot wide trench to install the underground cable, that it's everyone's opinion that those trees would probably not survive such a dramatic impact to their root system. So the committee at this point is in agreement that probably the best thing to do would be to remove those 2 trees, plant their replacements as per the original design, and that would be a Zelkova and a Patriot elm, move those trees back so they're in line with the new planting scheme, and then go on from there. The cost to do that, the change order to the existing contract, we received a quote from the contractor today. It would be $3,000 for those 2 trees, which is in line with what the per tree cost has been on the existing contract. So what we'd be looking for is authorization to expand the contract to include the installation of those 2 additional trees. I've asked Ron Keefe and the Light Department if they would be willing to supply the services that they've done in the past, and that's the removal of the 2 trees, and they had agreed to do that. So I think, it's a good deal. I don't know if you want to stop there. Do you need to have any discussion on that? Is we can just...
Well, any discussion from the board?
I got one question.
Sure.
Dan, as you're looking from here at the common towards the gazebo, from right at the head where the monument is that you put up for the Revolutionary War,
Yeah.
there's a new tree. There's a tree at the head. And in fact, there's 2 trees. There's an older tree there.
Yeah,
There's a new tree behind it.
yeah.
On the 1A side, there's a tree down, where they 30 feet apart. I don't know what the distance is
About
apart.
40 feet.
40 feet.
Yeah.
But on the opposite side on Summer Street, there is no tree to match. In other words, it's not matching. Was that
Yeah, it's not...
done on purpose, or was that?
Yeah, it's not necessarily matching, and I think, Mr. Peterson, the tree that you reference at the point, there are 3 trees that go back to the original planting. I think there's 2 Bradford pears and a cherry tree. The plan is to move those trees over to the... Is Ron still here?
Yes.
Yeah. Ron is scouting out suitable locations on town property to place those trees, and those will be moved. So those 3 little trees that you see that kind of throw off the design, those are to be relocated.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily matching because...
Just take a look at it the next time. It looked to me, and it's my own, it looks a little awkward.
Yeah.
Because the tree on Summer Street is not, it's not the, I'm not talking about having the 2 trees together in the front. It's just like it's a tree
There's
on the
actually,
corner, then there's one on the left, but there's none on the right, and then there's another one on the left, and then one on the right. So it's just like a
there's
gap.
one tree at the gazebo that's a memorial tree that was planted separately.
Right, that's the big one, right?
Well, I'm not sure how big it
Well,
is,
it's bigger than.
but
what
it's
you
kind of
said.
out of line with everything else.
Right.
Right.
But that was the memorial tree for 9/11.
Right, but I'm talking about up at this end though, just take a,
Yeah, no,
it's
and-
not a big deal, once again, it's one of those
Yeah,
things. I
no.
notice it every time I go by there,
Yeah,
which is often.
we spent quite a bit of time, and Steve Harrison spent quite a bit of time in designing the plan. And
Right.
what we tried to accommodate was the maturity of these trees. So as the crowns come out, we tried to
Right,
make
right,
it so that everybody's got enough room to
Okay.
grow. But yeah, so those 3 smaller trees will be removed. There are still 2 dogwood trees that we hope to have planted at the same time that these 2 additional, if the board so authorizes. The other thing that we have is the budget. Originally, we were funded by town meeting for $83,000. We're going to be coming significantly under that amount. We're currently looking at a balance of $42,511. That does not include the $3,000 for the 2 additional trees, plus there may be some stump grinding that we'll have to pay for. So at this point, we're looking at $39,511 plus or minus as a balance left in the project, which again, a lot of that goes to the cooperation that we've received in town from highway, from light, from water. So it's a great result. I had attended the CPC meeting last Thursday evening to talk about the thought of expanding the lighting so that the street lamps would be picked up on both Independence Summer and Main Street, as well as there's been some discussion about setting up some seating areas and, longer term about replacing and repairing the sidewalk around the perimeter of the common. While I don't believe we're quite where we need to be yet, perhaps on the seating and the sidewalk work, the committee has talked at length about the lighting scheme. I had originally asked the CPC whether or not they felt comfortable in considering an expanded amount of money to cover that. And I think it was agreed after some discussion that what they did feel comfortable with would be to take the balance remaining in the fund project or the project's fund and redirecting that or reallocating it towards the additional work to include lighting, benches, and longer-term sidewalk. I think the lighting at this point makes the most sense. I don't believe that we could complete the lighting project for that amount of money, but I think we could make a significant dent in it. And given that the light department is going to be pretty soon starting the burial of that line and the installation of the street lamps, we'd like to try to continue that effort as much as possible. We have their commitment and Highway's commitment to work on that project cooperatively as well. So I guess at this point, the committee would like to ask the board's for the board's support in repurposing that remaining balance.
Any discussion for the board?
As a member of both committees, the Town Common and the CPC, that we did support the making the change, and that we would like to see an article so that we could redirect the money so that we could go and expand it to cover the lighting.
Dan, great job.
Thank you.
I have to say that you did a really good job. I want to send you to Washington. That's what I want to send you. We can get the savings like this.
I don't know how many hours are left. 3 hours and 50 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Dan, is it possible for your committee to take a look at that backstop? That's been a pet peeve of mine for a lot of years. And either make a we're not really doing anything with it, but make a recommendation to either tear it down or replace it or do something with it. This common, if it goes to fruition the way we're discussing here, is going to be a beautiful piece of property. And the backstop just doesn't do anything. It's as far as I'm concerned, maybe other people disagree with me, but it's a pure detriment to the whole project. And I just,
We had a discussion, I don't know if it was just before you came on the board. Bob, remember that?
Yes.
About the backstop?
Yeah.
And Bob, you know the history of it, going back to what, 1949?
Well, no, I mean, there's been a backstop on there since the turn of the century. I've got photographs in the late 1890s, 1880s, 1890s of them playing ball there. And Tom the barber was in what was the antique shop next to Steve's house. And he and a bunch of guys got together and put that backstop up there because the one that was there was falling down. And they volunteered, they paid for all the materials and stuck it up there. I mean, I have to agree with Dave, it does need some work. There's no
yeah, it
question
shouldn't be
about
torn
that.
down. It needs
And
upgrading, I guess is the.
yeah, and I know at one point there was a landscaper in town, and I don't even know who it was, but Dick had mentioned this to us, the town hall janitor, and that they wanted to do something with it. And he wanted to know how to do it, and I said, well, you need to go before the Historic District Commission and discuss it with them. And as far as I know, that never happened.
I remember from my involvement with the Parks and Recreation, and Tim, I know that you've spent a lot of time there as well, that there were a lot of strong feelings about the historical aspects of having a backstop and having baseball played on the commons, and I can appreciate that. But at the same time, I also would think that the town has invested a lot of money in athletic fields and in other facilities so that those games could be played probably safe, in a more safe fashion. And I agree aesthetically, it's the weakest link on the common. One of the benefits of doing the lighting plan would be to take, there's a power line that comes from Main Street across Main Street to that backstop and also supplies the lamp for the flagpole. So one of the benefits of putting in the lighting down Main Street would be to fix that as well, because that power could then be routed underground and then up.
Yeah, and basically that actually comes off of summer. What you see coming from Main Street is the Christmas lighting.
Oh, is that,
Yeah, the small
okay.
one,
Okay.
the one that actually feeds the light for the flag and the outlets that are on the backstop
comes from summer?
comes from summer. So
Okay.
it's a shouted run,
Yeah,
so it's not
yeah.
bad at all.
But, so I agree, I think, there's some interest in cleaning.
Yeah, I just don't know who needs to do what with that, Bob, as far as, does it need to go before the historic people? I have
Well,
no
the
idea.
district commission
I
would-
just think this is an opportunity to, if we're gonna expand the funds, just include the backstop. What we end up doing with it, who lets us do anything, at least because next year, if you need to go back for more money that'll already be included.
Right.
And at least it'll be, people will start to take a look at it and
Right.
make a recommendation. I mean, I'm not saying we have to eliminate it, because I know we'll put all the signs, the charity signs, but, it's just something that you could make a nice looking backstop there that would be an asset and still be historically. In fact, it would be nice to put a monument. We talked about it one time, putting a monument up there to the baseball that was played on that common years ago.
And Dan, I agree with you as far as the organized playing. We've done very well with some CPC money and doing the recreation, and Tim has done a terrific job holding it all together. He's the glue that keeps it going. But it's the makeup games.
Right.
It's the father and son that wants to go out there on a evening at 5 o'clock when he gets home from work and play catch or bat some balls around. I
Right.
mean, that's, to me, is the importance part of that common.
Right.
That happens there.
Right.
And it
Yeah,
really
and-
works.
Yeah, I would agree, from that perspective, and there's been some thought that maybe there could be something done along the wrought iron type of design, and we have some creative people here in town that have, been thinking about what something would look like that, if you really looked at it, you say, oh, it's a backstop, but it could be designed such that,
Doesn't
you'd
look
have
like
to
the-
really spend a lot of time thinking about, is that something
Maybe
other than-
something, baseball at the turn of the century, something aesthetically
Right,
that would be pleasing to the eye,
right,
but it's not a chain link type of.
right.
Ron, you have something to say?
No, you're right about the historical commission. About 5 years ago, I wanted to replace that, and I had Agawam Fence all set to donate the fencing. The light department was going to donate, I believe, three or four telephone poles, and the sheriff's department was going to send one of their best carpenters they had. And when we were right about to do it, Scott brought down a pretty thick book of paperwork we had to fill out just to replace the backstop, and we wouldn't have had to pay a dime.
Okay.
And we just, I didn't see anything historical about it. It was a bunch of telephone poles. It wasn't put up during the Civil War or anything. And like Bob brought out earlier, it was a bunch of guys got together and threw it up. But I had all the free help ready to go, and the historical, it was about that thick. We just said,
Well, I think it needs to go back to the historical.
Well, at some point, you're gonna have to do that,
Yeah.
and maybe if we can show them some sort of a design. I realize that historically, there've been backstops there. That particular backstop was done probably in the late 60s, early 70s. So in its own right, it's really not historical as such. But it would be kind of nice if we could put something back that looked nice.
Right.
So
Okay,
maybe we can.
understood. Makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, Dan?
I think that's it.
Well, Dan, I'm gonna say, great job so far. Thank
Yeah,
you so
it's
much
really
for what you've
come out
done,
nice.
your efforts.
I'm just, there are plenty of people behind me that have been
he
active.
hasn't got my bill yet.
Do we need a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we
There's
do. Deb?
several things that Mr. Sapansky discussed with you that require board action.
Okay,
The first is the change order, amount of $3,000, and that will cover the company providing the trees and planting them in
Right.
accordance with all the terms and conditions of the contract.
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay,
What else, Deb?
now, are we opening the town meeting, a warrant to place an article, repurposing, Article 30 of,
Article 8.
Article
Article
8,
8 of April 30th, 2012 town meeting to use
We'll
the
lay that.
balance of that?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
Do I have a second? I have a second.
And to close the warrant after we open
Okay.
it.
This is to open up the warrant.
To place an article.
Place an article.
Inserted by the Board of Selectmen in accordance with what Mr. Sapienzi described, and I can work with him on the text of this,
Okay.
using the balance of approximately,
I have a motion and a second. Amy, so you got that?
Yep.
Yes, Kurt.
I'd just like to clarify
Kurt Turner, okay.
thank you, sorry. The Community Preservation Act Committee's vote the other night was solely for use in streetlights on that, and not for, Dan suggested a couple other things, but the vote, I believe, was limited to the streetlights. Is that correctly your memory?
Yeah.
Thanks, Kurt. So, motion, second, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next. We
Close
have,
the warrant.
I think that was it. And
That
then,
opens the warrant?
The
That
board
open-
would like his committee to just look at the backstop, just as a concept, and come up with ideas, probably over the winter when they're.
have a motion for recommendation.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do we need to close the warrant now?
I presume that was part of Mr. Peterson's motion,
yeah.
was to open and
That
close the
Mr.
warrant to
Mr.
place
Mary,
an
yeah, that was
article.
part of
Yes.
our motion.
That was part of the motion, okay. All right.
Unless you-
Thank you, gentlemen.
Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
Great job.
Thanks, Dan.
Again, thank you. Dan has done a great job in the committee, I gotta say.
Yes, we have the article.
Yes.
They really have.
Girl
They've
Scouts and then-
Really done a
Oh,
fantastic job.
wow.
Yeah, thanks, Kurt.
See you,
Ron,
Ron.
thank you. Kurt, take care. Thanks for coming in. Okay, it is about 17 after the hour of 8. And we have another appointment. We're running late, I apologize. Again, we have an 8 o'clock appointment at 8:17. And then Tara Gibbs to discuss the annual Fall Fest event on the Common. Tara?
Hi,
Come on up, Tara. We reserve that seat for you. Okay?
I brought my friend Jill here.
Hi, Joe, come on up. If you're a friend of Tara's, you have to sit up front.
This is Jill Boulay. She might have something to say as well.
Okay, Tara Gibbs to discuss the annual Fall Fest event on the Common. The Pine Grove School PTA has sent the following request to use the town common for the annual Fall Fest. With that, Tara, I'm going to turn it over to you. So,
We are just asking for permission to use the green again this year on October 25th from the hours of 5:30 to 8 are likely going to be the hours of the event. A few hours before and a little bit of time after to clean up and leave it exactly as it was. I know that the trees are new and there was some concern over whether or not it would be safe for the kids to be there. My suggestion was to the stakes that are there, to wrap the stakes with yellow caution tape, not touching the trees, just so that they were marked clearly and well. I have not spoken directly to the fire department and the police, but last year they provided us with, I thought, ample lighting. I'm going to see if we can get any additional lighting. Someone mentioned to me that the street was a little bit dark down near one of the crosswalks. Pretty much going to do a lot of the same. This year we asked White Farms if they would like to join us, and Jill can speak to that. They're going to bring the cow truck. Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
the cow truck.
Yeah.
Yes. And serve ice cream out of that. Might be cold, but I think most kids don't care.
No, kids don't care about cold pools or ice cream. Yes.
So that's our plan. We're gonna have a DJ again, games, crafts, that kind of fun stuff.
Okay, and this is going to be what date?
October 25th. It's a Friday night.
Friday night, and that's
Yes.
going to be from 2 to 9?
Yes, I asked for that amount of time. So I'd like to I just want it to be well planned out in terms of
Sure.
being able to take care of and I'm gonna make up some signs, some nice signs saying, please respect respect your town, stay away from the trees. We're gonna ask the school on Friday when they dismiss the kids to say, you know, have a great time tonight, but remember, stay off of our new tree, you know, stay away from the new trees.
But your focus time is going to be from,
From 5:30 to 7:30. It's typically a 2-hour event. I thought about extending it a little bit until 8, making it 2.5 hours, just based on how many crafts and games we had this year. But I just have to clear that up with the PTA. So.
Do you have anything to say, Jill?
Well, like Tara was saying, we're gonna bring the caravan, and I spoke to the Board of Health to see if
Okay.
we needed to run anything by them, and she gave me a form to fill out, so we'll get that done. And then she did call me today, I forgot to tell you, she wanted me just to check with the police department as well, and just
Okay.
let them know. I'm gonna give them a call tomorrow
Okay.
to make sure they're okay with it.
All right.
I left off one very important detail, and that is that every year this event brings in a tremendous amount of food and health and beauty items for the Raleigh Food Pantry. And last year we did a 50-50 that was really successful. We were able to give them $250 in cash.
Wow.
When the PTA donated their half, the winner, who happened to be Jeff from Chickadee Hill, he donated his back too. So we felt like we really were able to do, you know, quite a bit.
that's
You
excellent.
know, the food pantry
Excellent.
has a special place in my heart. You know, I try to give them as much press as I possibly can. You know, Brad Hill had his second annual this weekend, so just can't say enough.
We make that like the admission fee for everyone to bring a can to
Oh,
get
that's
into
great.
the event.
That's great.
And we
Good for you.
donate that to the pantry.
That's super.
Yes.
Wonderful. Any
Wonderful.
questions from the
Yeah, I
board?
just want to say, Mr. Chairman, in the past years, it's been very successful, number one. There's a great deal of parental supervision so that you haven't got just groups of kids. I mean, they group up when they get there, but there's a ton of parents that are involved. And the other thing that's very impressive is the next morning you could drive by there and you would never know that the event took place. I mean, they've done a super job of cleaning it up, and it's just it's a real great time for the kids. I mean, I think it's a valuable, and these people, as well as all the volunteers they have, do a lot of work on it. And I think we should encourage this event as
Yes.
well as others like that to make use of that common. It's
Yep.
going to be beautiful.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask if the porta potties will be by the backstop, or do you have a special place for them, or?
We bring, we have one porta potty delivered, and it does go on the backstop.
Okay,
It
Because
leans
it-
against it so that it cannot fall over.
right.
It will arrive on Friday.
In
and
the
it will-
past, we've had people try to deliver them on the Summer Street side, which creates some problems.
Definitely no,
Would
up
you-
against the backstop.
Yeah, with the funeral home, because we had a bike race about a month ago, I guess now,
Oh.
and they parked it right in front of the funeral home, and he had a funeral going on that
Yeah.
day and that night and the next day, so if we can kind of keep it away from there, it would be much easier for us, and the phone, for some reason, doesn't ring as much when that happens.
We'll
Rang that
definitely do
day,
that.
all right.
Last year I did call him ahead of time, and I just wanted to wait until I had the go-ahead from you to just let him know exactly what it was
Sure.
and make sure that makes I feel
Yeah,
terrible.
that would be a nice gesture.
Yes,
I will do
yes.
that.
yes.
Well, anything else from the board? Do we need a motion?
Mr. Chairman, just to point out, the rain date is on Sunday, October 27th.
Right.
Yes, and that would be from 1 to 7?
That's what I said, yes. I
1 to
was
7.
thinking 4 to 6 is the actual event, and
Yeah, we need a.
We're gonna make a motion for good weather,
Yeah.
okay, so,
thank you.
I'll make the motion.
have a motion,
I'll second it.
have a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
And could we include with that motion, now that we're past it, that they follow the recommendations of the Department of Public Safety heads?
Yes, just follow
Yes.
up with the
Oh,
chief of
absolutely.
police.
We couldn't do it without them.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
And we wish you all the best, and you have a good time.
Thank you.
All right? Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Jill.
And excellent,
Thank you.
All
good
right.
weather.
Can't wait to see the cow truck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank
Okay, that takes care of our appointments for tonight. And it's 25 minutes after 8. Okay, moving on to old business number 4, Brad Street Baseball Project Update. And I take it that's why you're here, Tim?
Yes.
Tim, we reserved the seat up front for you.
Thank you.
Project has been working on engineering proposal from Meridian, attached as a draft proposal. We have requested some minor changes in the inclusion of language requiring Meridian to submit the requisite certificate of insurance. This proposal covers the geotechnical work we need to do at the site. The proposal also addresses the need for the stormwater management system. Data from this plan will be used in applications for stormwater management permit from the Conservation Commission and the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan in accordance with the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. Meridian will also write the technical specifications and provide construction administration services. We recommend that the Board of Selectmen approve this proposal pending the submittal of revised version Debbie has not yet received. So with that, Tim.
Okay. Basically, what we've done is we've gotten together as a committee to kind of move forward on this project. Both myself and Debbie and Amy and Bob and Dave have been meeting to move forward on the project. This aspect, this next phase here that we need to do with phase one is to meet the appropriate permitting as far as the state and federal guidelines for the conservation and with the Stormwater Protection Act and things of that nature. So this is what this would go through. Meridian would the specs that they've drawn up for us would meet. They've actually talked with Brent from the conservation to make sure that things would meet the guidelines that's set forth through the state and through the federal, and that's what this is for, so that we can get that permitting, so that we can then move forward with the actual bidding of the project.
So, Mr. Chairman, the project team's been meeting on a regular basis. As you know, we had to, start from scratch here because the project the site is so large that it triggers a federal filing under the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. So we have to get a local stormwater management permit and then the federal one, and we need the data from the stormwater map that will be used in this filing. So Meridian has reworked the proposal, and we had a couple of little changes. The board has a copy of it, just some minor things that addresses some filing of notices with the local permit with the Concom. And we're looking for some direction, and Mr. Murray and Mr. Peterson can chime in from the board if they would approve the concept of it. It's total of $28,500. It covers several phases. Geotechnical work, so Meridian will hire a company that specializes in this and do that phase, and then use that data for their stormwater work, which needs to be done. Then they will file the applications for these permits. And then after that, write the specs in accordance with the permit requirements that hopefully will be issued by the Conservation Commission and the EPA, and then go out to bid, and then have some construction administrative services on site to make sure that the contractor is doing the work, not only in accordance with the construction specifications, but all the environmental permit requirements that the contractor will need to abide by.
Yeah, I think we need to follow through with that. The stormwater is the one that kind of threw us a curve when we first started to put this together. And it's kind of expanded a little bit in that it's a little bit more complicated because it's a federal filing. So we definitely need the engineering firm to walk us through that and to keep an eye on it as it progresses into the beginning of the construction.
I don't think anybody really has a handle on the new stormwater management regulations that are coming down. We were speaking about this at the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission just 2 weeks ago. So
it is pretty complicated.
It is, and it's unfunded.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that when Tim came in and met with us, that we have funding available, and well, obviously we want to make sure that this project is done right so that the
Yes.
job gets done, but also that we don't get halfway through and someone's knocking on our door saying, wait a minute, you didn't do this right or do that right.
Exactly.
And to do that, we were hoping to skinny by with a little less engineering, but it's become obvious that we really need to do the engineering correctly. And, it's gonna be a nice facility when it's all done, and we just need to make sure that we cross the Ts and dot the Is as we go down through the process. And it's dragging the process out at this point beyond what everybody wants to do, but we don't have any choice. And like when we built those bridges years ago, you're waiting for everybody else to make approval, so that, but we want to expedite it as fast as we can on our end, and then
We're still on the first phase of this
Correct.
project.
Yes,
And we have 3 more to go after this is complete.
right.
So, when will phase 1 be? When would it be? Hopefully complete.
When things go correctly, hopefully this spring we can get on getting the bids out and get back so that hopefully, the project can get started next year. That's the goal. I mean, a lot of it depends on how quickly these things can move. I mean, hopefully if things go correctly and go well, that's something we can work on this winter as far as getting the bids out and received, and then hopefully once we get into the better weather, we can start the actual project.
Yeah, the goal, I think, is to start construction in the next construction season, next middle to late spring, probably. That's assuming that all this engineering and, the permitting process and I don't know what, everybody's cutting funds and cutting, so I don't know how long it's gonna take for all these approvals from the various state and federal groups, but that's where the holdup is gonna be. The design looks good, they've done a lot of work already. It's just a matter now of putting it all together, and it's as we saw with the bridges, I mean, there were things that sat on people's desks for months. As much as we made calls and stuff like that, you couldn't, once they're on someone's desk, you can't move them until they get around to moving them, and it's, it's one of those things that
I think we all thought the bridges would never get
we'll
done,
do the
but they
best we
did.
can. No, they got done pretty good, but I
Really?
mean, it's just a matter of, it takes us to keep on these agencies, number one, and to make sure that when we make the submittals that they're correct, so they're not coming back and say, oh, wait a minute, you left this off, and now we go through the whole new process of making this. And I just want to commend Tim for he comes down here and meets with us during his lunch hour from work, so I mean, it's luckily he's available, but I mean, the man puts in an unbelievable amount of time, not only on this project, but all the other, take care of the fields. I mean, he deserves a commendation from this board at some point for the
Sure
effort
does.
and the time and the work he puts in, because it's just, there's no one else to do it. I mean, and you've got the sports knowledge and the field knowledge that, we depend on.
I know how many times I've talked to Tim on his lunch hour.
I mean, 4th of July, look what he did on 4th of July at
Yes.
the outing for the Common. He was there for the whole
Yeah.
thing, ran the game. So, I mean, it just, congratulations to you on all the work you do, and there's no way we can repay you, but at some point we'll give you a plaque maybe or something.
I appreciate it. I came from Woodstock. My mom and dad were.
Oh, okay.
No, you've done,
They've done a
Tim, I
lot
can't say
of things,
enough
so-
of what you've
Yes.
done for the town.
I appreciate that very
When it
much.
comes to recreation here, I mean, we owe you an awful lot.
No, I appreciate it. A nice thank you goes a long way. So I do appreciate that very much. Thank you.
You're the new Jim Bowen. Who else have we had in the past? We've done all kinds of work on athletics, and
I will say, as far as the project goes, we did have $225,000 that was earmarked for phase 1. As of this date, we still have almost $221,000. We spent a little over $4,000 between layouts, blueprints, some permitting, some postings in the paper and things of that nature. So this next step is not an added expense. It's just something that's developed into the cost of the project.
Just to remind everybody, because I know people probably have a question, phase 1, baseball fields, phase 2,
Tennis courts and skateboard park.
and skateboard, okay,
Phase 3 is a girls softball field.
and girls softball field, okay. So that's the 4 phases of
You're right.
the property,
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions, the board? Tim, thank you very much. It's
Excellent.
always a pleasure to have you here.
Okay.
Okay.
We need a motion,
Recommendation from the board.
Excuse me?
we need a motion to,
Yeah, so I
Oh,
don't have the
contract.
final Meridian proposal because I've asked for what we require for certificates of insurance. I don't know where the board wants to sit with this or wait. Mr. Murray
I'll-
won't be here next Monday.
I'll make a motion that we approve the new Meridian contract as amended,
Okay.
I'll second that.
I have a second.
so that we can just move forward on
Motion,
it.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Tim, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to new business. Okay, discuss historic town site. Pulpit Rock in Line Brook Church Cemetery. We have two town treasures that need to be preserved. Pulpit Rock in the Line Brook Church Cemetery. Bob Mary will discuss the historical pre-Revolutionary War events that occurred at these sites. The Reverend George Whitfield preached at Pulpit Rock. Some of the earliest settlers in Raleigh attended Linebrook Church and are buried in this historic cemetery. Bob feels that we may be able to approach, the Essex National Heritage Commission for assistance in preserving these sites. We may want to have this request sent to behalf of the Town of Raleigh Historical Commission. One or two of the selectmen could be delegated to make this request to the Raleigh Historical Commission. With that, Bob, I'm going to turn it over to you because this is really an important historical piece of our community.
It really is. I mean, George Whitfield, and it is, if you look at it in writing, it looks like Whitefield because the E is silent. It's actually an English name, so. Was quite a character. He really was. I mean, he was one of the preachers during the Great Awakening. And he made 7 trips from England over here to the United States, America, to preach. And he preached all through this area. And we actually have documentation in a letter that he wrote stating that he was going to preach in Raleigh on a Monday afternoon. And it was through the Linebrook Parish Church that he was going to preach. He was going to be their preacher that day. And the church wasn't big enough to hold the some 2,000 people that showed up to listen to his sermon. So he climbed up on top of this outcropping of ledge on Meeting House Road and gave his sermon. And from that day forward, that piece of ledge was considered Pulpit Rock. And the minister, even in Linebrook Parish, on a good day in the summer, would actually go up there and preach to his congregation, just to keep it going. He preached all over the country, and there's an interesting story, if we've got a couple of minutes, that Benjamin Franklin tells. So I'd just like to read that for you. If I can find it. And basically, it's titled, it's from Wikipedia, as a matter of fact, on the website. It's Benjamin Franklin and Whitfield. Benjamin Franklin attended a revival meeting in Philadelphia and was greatly impressed with Whitfield's ability to deliver a message to such a large group. Franklin had previously dismissed as an exaggeration reports of Whitfield preaching to crowds of the order of 10,000 in England. When listening to Whitfield preaching from the Philadelphia courthouse, Franklin walked away towards his shop in Market Street until he could no longer hear Whitfield distinctly. He then estimated his distance from Whitfield and calculated the area of a semicircle centered on Whitfield. Allowing 2 square feet per person, he computed that Whitfield could be heard by over 30,000 people in the open air.
Oh,
Franklin admired Whitfield as a fellow intellectual, but thought Whitfield's plan to run an orphanage in Georgia would lose money. He published several of Whitfield's tracts and was impressed by Whitfield's ability to preach and speak with clarity and enthusiasm to crowds. Franklin was an ecumenalist and approved of Whitfield's appeal to members of many denominations, but he was not himself converted. After one of Whitfield's sermons, Franklin noted the wonderful change soon made in the manners of our inhabitants. From being thoughtless or indifferent about religion, it seemed as if all the world were growing religiously, so that one could not walk through the town of an evening without hearing psalms sung in different families of every street. So, I mean, Franklin was really kind of taken aback by this preacher. Now, one of the pieces I had was, he knew that Whitfield was going to take up a collection after his sermon. Mm-hmm. And I think it was probably for his orphanage that he had mentioned there. So Franklin says that he's got some coppers in his pocket. Mm-hmm. He has some silver coin and he has some gold coin in his pocket. So when he first starts hearing the sermon, he says, well, I'm not going to give him anything. I'm going to keep my money. Partway through the sermon, he decides, well, this guy isn't too bad after all, so I'll give him my coppers. Halfway through the sermon, Franklin says, this guy's real pretty good. I'm going to give him my silver too. By the time Whitfield finished the sermon, Franklin emptied his pockets. So, I mean,
For his gold and silver and.
he gave it all. Whatever he had in his pocket, he gave to him. So, I mean, it's quite, and you can go through this. One other thing is that he is actually buried in the, is it the Presbyterian Church in Newburyport? It's the South End Church. Anyway, they call it the South End Church.
Oh, Whitfield is?
In Boston, and in Newburyport.
In Newburyport.
Under the altar.
Huh?
Yeah. He actually stayed there that night. He gave a sermon that day.
Mm-hmm.
Went there that night, gave another sermon at the church in Newburyport, because he stayed with the minister in the parsonage there. And then for a couple hours after that, talked to the people that had gathered there and didn't leave. And he wasn't feeling well. And that night he passed away. And through his will, he was buried there and is still there today. And there's people that come from all over the country and basically all over the world to go into that church and look at his monument there.
I didn't realize Whitfield was buried. I know I read about the Great Awakening and everything else, but never realized that he was here.
Yeah, so, I mean, to me, we've got this piece. Now, we could get in, but it's going to take probably more time than we want to spend. There's a piece about the Devil's Footprint in Ipswich. And some people probably know about that, most people don't. But there's quite a story that goes with that and with Mr. Whitfield, because Whitfield is the one that chased the devil out of the First Congregational Church of Ipswich. And the devil left the footprint on the stone in front of the church.
In Ipswich?
In Ipswich. In Ipswich, yes. So, I mean, there's quite a story. Even the cemetery itself, it was almost to a point where it was abandoned when the parish moved over onto Linebrook Road in Ipswich. And in 1939, the Historical Commission in the town here dedicated a monument up there with some of the names on it. There's a fellow that lives in Ipswich that's done a lot of research, and he's come up with pretty much what he feels is most of the names of the people that may be buried there. They're not all identified, but they may be buried there. And
is that the cemetery that's right on Linebrook Road?
No, this one.
What's the one that's
So the one,
Leslie
yeah, I know the
Road.
one you're
Leslie
thinking of.
Road? Yeah, Leslie
Yes.
Road.
It's on Leslie Road on the corner of Meeting House.
Right, that's the cemetery that.
That's the
it's-
first Linebrook Parish burial ground.
That's the one we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
you have to
that's
have the other
there,
one
just,
further down.
just opposite.
Yeah.
That's just opposite from Pulpit Rock. It's right there. Pulpit Rock's on one side of the meeting house, the cemetery's on the other side. And then when the church moved, they created another cemetery in Ipswich, over on Linebrook Road itself. So, I think that we need to protect these sites.
Yes.
We really do. I mean, it almost got lost until 1939 when they put it. And actually, Louise Mahaffey, which was at the time Louise Tenney, and her brother Harrison Tenney, because the Tenney family was involved with establishing the Linebrook Parish Church originally, they unveiled the monument that was there in 1939. And it's a pretty good story of a preacher that gave the dedication to that memorial. If you get a chance to read it, it's very interesting. It's very interesting reading. And it was people coming from Topsfield, from Ipswich, Rowley, that actually formed the church. And the interesting part is, why do they call it Linebrook? Well, it seems that the parish itself, all the boundaries for the parish were brooks. So they decided to call it Linebrook Parish. So
Very simple.
it is. I mean, and these were simple people. They were farmers and worked the land. And the only reason Meeting House Road was built, it was because it was the road to the meeting house. And the Tenneys, because they were involved in the original establishment of the church, lived on Newby Road. And they wanted a way to, instead of going all the way around to get to the meeting house, they actually had the road built, Meeting House Road, to get to the parish and the church. So, I mean, we need to preserve these pieces. They're slowly disappearing on us, particularly with developments coming along and things like that. Some of this land gets lost.
You're right.
I mean, Metcalf Rock Pasture is another good example. That was the smallpox cemetery, and we were lucky enough to have that deeded to the town, and we were able to save that. We happened to, when they put the development in there, we were lucky enough that the Historical Commission at the time got the monument, the stone that's out there in front of the road that goes into that development, to at least recognize the fact that it was out there, the Metcalf Rock Pasture. So.
And a lot of people don't realize that at the time, Franklin, going into this particular time, he was the Thomas Edison of his age, of the age.
Yep.
He was, I believe at the time, he was the wealthiest man in the colonies because of all his inventions. I think he turned over all the patents of his inventions over to the people, so that the people could have it. So he was quite the. The only reason I know this, my father-in-law had a degree in printing, and Franklin was his. The man he looked up to.
Yeah.
He was
His mentor.
amazing.
His mentor.
His mentor, really,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
My father-in-law would go on for hours about Franklin.
Wow.
His brilliance.
Yeah, he was. He was a very great.
He was. I mean, he was the Thomas Edison of the
And
age.
actually, most people feel that even Whitfield was better than Wesley. And Whitfield kind of followed Wesley in the beginning. Wesley was here first, but they said Whitfield was even better.
Yeah.
as far
This
as
is,
it was.
and you're right, Bob. This is something that we need to protect as our history. you know, going
Absolutely.
back.
I mean, Raleigh doesn't have an awful lot, although there's more than you might think. In some of the firsts that we had the first fulling mill, as an example. But we don't have a lot to show off. We're not a Salem that has the witchcraft trials. We're not a Boston that had the.
But we did have one of the witches, right?
Yes, unfortunately we did. Margaret Scott
Yeah.
was accused of witchcraft. A very feisty old lady. She was an elderly lady, and she absolutely would not admit that she was a witch.
Cotton Mathers came up from Boston up to Raleigh, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
And she was put to death. Now, every witch that was accused, or every person that was accused of being a witch, who admitted that they were witches, were set free. The ones that refused to say that they were and agreed that they were put to death.
But, yeah.
So, I mean, we have that, and we have a monument for her down on Pleasant Street at the Common there, Margaret Scott Green. So we need to, this is kind of getting lost now. The sign, used to be a sign there, and actually it was probably about, well, time goes by so fast these days. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, if I'm thinking right. We had a Eagle Scout project,
Mhm.
and they cleaned the cemetery and put up a sign explaining what was there, the cemetery itself, and about the pulpit rock.
Yeah, there is a, I don't, a sign, and there was a bench put out there, and.
Yeah, and that was done
I
through an
believe
Eagle
it's-
Scout project.
Yeah, I believe it's still there.
Just to draw our attention to it.
Do we have a, and the first one to admit, I'm not really up on the history of Raleigh, but do we have a synopsis of all these different sites that, people coming into town could, like I know I've been in here when people are coming to the town clerk from various places, they look it up, ancestors, et cetera, et cetera. I wonder if we, and I don't know, maybe we have something, but,
Yeah,
I'm gonna say almost like a pamphlet, but something that
well, there is a
to kind of
pamphlet.
keep track of these things as we all, as you in particular, you move on. These things are gonna get lost even more,
Well, we have, the Historical Society has a pretty good collection of different things, and they have a pamphlet that kind of gives an overall, it's not a complete history of the town by any
No, but-
imagination, but gives an overall of the town. There is, in '89, the Historical Society put together a walking tour
Yeah, I guess that's what I'd be.
of the center of town so that you can walk it.
Yeah.
And I did one, I took part of that and some other things that were available and made a bus tour that I have a copy of, that I put
Might be
together.
worthwhile to, make something like that available,
We had the,
especially next year with the 375th.
375th.
There's been some talk about it, Dave.
To
There's
do
some
something
people
like that, to
that
make
have actually
a-
approached me for that.
Yeah.
And we actually had the Carlton family. The Carlton family was one of the first settlers, one of the original settlers. And they owned the land down where Gonis was, on Cross Street in Central. That was their lot down there. And they came down and wanted a tour, so they rented a bus, and I put the tour together, and we did a tour all through the town. And actually, Pulpit Rock was on that tour, amongst other things, so.
I'm always after you, Bob, to get on the cable TV and be interviewed. All that knowledge you have of the town.
Have it recorded.
So what do we need, what are you looking for us to do?
No,
then?
I think we should go to, what I'd like to do is have, like Debbie suggested, a couple of the selectmen go to the historical commission and kind of present this to them. And probably some of those folks that are fairly new to town don't realize about George, Mr. Whitfield, Reverend Whitfield. And maybe get them to approach the National Heritage as part of the National Heritage Trail. I mean, Main Street, right down through 1A here, on one of our main thoroughfares, is on the National Heritage Trail. And if you don't know that this artifact is out there, Pulpit Rock, you'll never find it. So we need to bring attention to it and see if we can get them to help us and maybe make it an historic landmark.
Well, let me see. Getting late. So, have a motion from somebody on the board to send Bob to the Historic Commission with another
I'll
selectman?
make that motion.
Who else we want to send?
Well, we already have a member sitting on the commission, right?
No,
You-
Joe is not on the commission.
Oh.
He's
Not on the historic.
375th.
Okay.
On
Right.
375th.
How come you wind up there?
Luck of the draw.
Sorry about that, Joe. Yeah, I think we just need to make a presentation to them and say,
Okay.
what can we do and how do we go about doing it? And they're the ones, the commission itself, I mean, and we get kind of confused a little bit because the Historical Commission was first. And they were basically formed in I think it was 56, when the law first came up to create historic commissions for communities. And they actually voted to accept the legislation with one thing in mind, and that was the smallpox cemetery. They wanted to preserve the smallpox cemetery, so that, and they, by creating the commission, they were able to accept the deed from the owner that deeded it to the town. So that's what actually started the commission.
How long was the smallpox? Have to ask.
Well, we go back into the late mid 1780s up and through the
1780s.
early 1920, somewhere in there. It was
Wow.
when most of it took place. And of course, that was a
How
whole.
many people buried there?
There's actually 11 graves there.
11 graves.
Yeah, we don't have the 11 names, but we do have the 11 graves, and there's maybe a half a dozen names, 7 or 8 names, something like that.
Okay.
And that was another, when I was on the Historic Commission at the time, Eagle Scout project.
Okay.
We had an Eagle Scout come in, and we cleaned the lot. And we actually, believe it or not, took divining rods, and by looking at, with the divining rods and looking at the topography of the land, we actually found the 11 graves.
Really?
And I talked to Jack. We had a stone wall in the really back part of the cemetery. And he let us take 7 stones, 11 stones, and we painted them white and marked each grave. Because there is a marker there that was also done in 1939.
It's still there.
What was
Yeah,
it
still
that
up
they
there.
had to be buried separately from
Well, what they wanted to do was isolate them.
Isolate
And they
them.
had a pest, what they call a pest house,
Pest
that was
house.
in the Metcalf Rock Cemetery, pasture.
Mhm.
And there was a doctor there that would be there every day. And when these people got sick, they moved them up there to isolate them so that it wouldn't spread.
Mhm.
And when they passed away, they just took them out of the pest house and down a little ways and basically buried it in the middle of the woods, is what had happened. And then, of course, when the development came along, it no longer was in the middle of the woods, and it was out in the middle of everywhere, so. But they put up a new sign. The project was part of that, with the new sign that went in, and the marking and cleaning, and they made a path that went in there to the stone. That was a good project too. Came out really nice.
All right, so we have a motion to send Bob and who else?
You.
All right, we have a motion to send Bob and
Yeah,
myself.
those
Bob.
two are would be the best here, you know.
Okay. All right, we have that motion.
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Bob, thank you so much.
Oh, you're
It's
welcome.
always a pleasure to listen to Bob. I mean, when it comes to the history of Raleigh and you know,
And I just want to make one note, that in reading this little synopsis, the article that was attached here, it mentions that I was born in Marblehead. And it says Mr. Whitfield went to Marblehead to preach, but because they were all fishermen, they weren't too impressed with him in Marblehead, so he left.
Yep.
Never went back.
Yep.
but we have to say about the Marblehead fishermen. They're the fellas.
Birthplace of the American Navy, by the way.
Absolutely, and they're the ones that took Washington across the Delaware in the boats. And wasn't for the Marbleheaders.
Talk about that.
Wasn't for the Marbleheaders. I think they were also the ones that got them out of New York City when they were surrounded.
Yeah,
Washington's army.
Marbleheaders were
there.
Yeah, in the book, 1776,
76.
you find a lot of the Marbleheaders
Yeah,
listed by name.
Marbleheaders. If
Yep.
it wasn't for them, the army would have been a really.
Well, the schooner Lee, out of Marblehead, captured the brig Nancy. Thus so, we have the cannon Old Nancy.
Old Nancy.
Oh, Nancy.
The first Navy ship was built in Marblehead, manned by Marblehead men. It sailed to Beverly and was commissioned in Beverly. That's where Beverly claims that they were the birthplace.
They outfitted in Beverly.
Yeah, they outfitted it.
And
That was the
that was the schooner.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't the schooner.
it was
Lee,
they
was
outfitted
before
it
that.
there, but it was
Yeah.
Marblehead, built in Marblehead, manned by Marblehead men. It's like the old Nancy, right? It's
Like old
never,
Nancy.
never to be settled for sure. But
That's right.
I go to Georgetown, I mention old Nancy. and
Well, if you're
it's all
tuned in-
worked up right away.
If you're tuned in from Georgetown, we have Old Nancy. Okay. New business. Town administrator update. I would like to work with Vice Chairman Bob Murray and Selectman Dave Peterson over the fall and winter, complying with a list of new capital purchases for the town. I am asking the vote for the board to delegate these two selectmen to work with her, Amy Doreen, on this project. I am trying to schedule a meeting with the Parker River National Refuge Acting Director, Frank Drasuski, at one of the upcoming October meetings. I will be working on the town meeting warrant this week. We'll review it next week's meeting. So with that, do I have a motion?
I'll make that, go ahead. I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anything else, Deb, to add to that? Okay. All right. Okay, we're at the announcements. Raleigh Food Pantry is in need of donations. Raleigh Food Pantry is open Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. Again, I want to thank all the people who donated food up at Market Basket. I thank Market Basket for holding that. It was a great outpouring of everybody in the surrounding communities, not just Raleigh. You know, I saw people from Ipswich, I saw people from Georgetown, people from Newbury. They popped by supporting the local food pantries. It's one of those things that go under everybody's radar, especially at this time of year. And you know, I'm a big proponent of the food pantries. There is a need within the community that we don't see. It's just below the surface, and there's people in need of food. And as somebody stopped me the other day, I said, I was saying to people as up at Market Basket, I said, you know, a box of spaghetti, jar of spaghetti sauce, feed somebody. And someone stopped me and said, wait a minute, don't forget, you know, a can of tuna fish, protein in somebody's diet. So don't forget the protein, macaroni and cheese, things like that, you know, to feed somebody, just not a box of spaghetti and some spaghetti sauce. That protein is very important in people's diets. Peanut butter and tuna fish. So if you can, please support the food pantries. Greatly appreciated. There's a drop-off basket right over here at the library, and again, you can drop it off at the food pantry behind the parsonage. Moving on, the town has the following vacancy: Conservation Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 open seats, 2 fence viewer positions, and wood lumber bark inspector. Again, the battery recycling box is located here in the town hall and the library. Matter of fact, I left the house tonight and I got a little bag of batteries. You know, you have A batteries that you've used for your VCR and for your Comcast controllers, Verizon controllers. You know, take your batteries, don't throw them away in the trash. Good way of being green: throw them in a little plastic bag, drop them off at the library or right here at the town hall. Raleigh Community Media is showing a video recording of the Board of Health September 23rd, 2013 discussion with Curtis Ersing on Lyme disease, an important topic to read about and to know about. I urge you to watch that. Lyme disease, I mentioned it last week. I had a case of it a couple of years ago. Became deathly sick from it. And I've talked to so many people in the community that have had. I talked to one person who was bitten over in Ipswich and came down with a heart condition, and they had to have a pacemaker. So be aware of what the signs are of Lyme disease. With that, any other mentions?
Just, accolade to the Raleigh TV people. I just happened to be, my wife really was channel surfing the other day, and she hollered to me to come in and watch the planting of the trees on the common, the video that they did. It's very entertaining, and they put music to it, and they speeded it up, so it's obviously, the things up, everybody's jumping around, but it's very entertaining. If anybody hasn't seen it, take a look at it, because they did a great job of putting it together.
And she's
Raleigh
actually
Community
going to continue it on as the project progresses. She will keep adding
great.
extras to it. Yeah, she told me that. So
That's great.
To everybody in Raleigh Community Media, we thank you so much for what you do. You do a great job. There's some great programs starting to produce. I was over the library last week when you did the presentation on Palestine, Israel, and they came in and they filmed it. I hope you enjoy it. It was an enjoyable trip and an enlightening trip. That will be on the next couple of weeks. But I can't say enough about Raleigh Community Media. As we, when we started Raleigh Community Media and we first came on the air here, one of the things I said, as we started, we would do it in baby steps. And the stride is starting to go from baby steps forward, and now we're starting to walk. As we go forward, we will add to Raleigh Community Media, and it will expand. And I can't say enough of how they produce the programs, and all of us, as we go out into the community, I'm surprised sometimes, and people get me up against the wall and ask me questions about what's going on here. And I'm so glad that you tune in. I think we're the highest rated show in Raleigh at this time segment, I think.
Monday Night Football's on, right?
Monday Night Football, so maybe somebody, but you can catch us on tape.
But you can catch us on tape. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. Well, anyways, that's it for tonight. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week at the same time.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to join. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night now.